speaking of traditions that we have to do away with, remember in 2017 when John Oliver mocked President Trump for claiming that, statues, where does it end with statues coming down? Here you go, a refresher.
Statues are how we glorify people, or in the case of one in Tokyo, how we glorify giant radioactive lizards. And yet, the president's concern seems to be that tearing down statues leads to a slippery slope.
This week it's Robert E. Lee. I noticed that Stonewall Jackson's coming down. I wonder, is it George Washington next week? And is it Thomas Jefferson the week after? You really do have to ask yourself, where does it stop?
Okay, well, I'll tell you where it stops. Somewhere. Anytime someone asks, where does it stop, the answer is always f***ing somewhere.
It's always nice to be John Oliver and not have to actually draw the line or put...
or answer the question.
Sign your name
or have an argument.
To hold accountability. It ends somewhere. Really? Where? Well, I don't know, but watch me do this other joke about Tilda Swinton. Fuck you, Tilda Swinton!
His audience, did you hear the tentative laughter? They're like, is this supposed to be funny?
I think he is funny, but that being said, hey,
that wasn't.
They were saying it would only end with the Confederates for the first time now in City Hall. The statue of Thomas Jefferson, I believe in New York City, gone. Here you go. Now, let me be clear.
Are you serious?
Yes.
Yeah.
I feel better already.
Yeah. This country just seems so much better now.
Yeah, it's so much better to get rid of. Look.
I love to show him the future, too, in 2017 and be like, you want to see where it ends?
Yeah, he doesn't care.
Somewhere.
Here's your mask. Get used to it.
Go back to him in 2013 and say, hey, by the way, men are going to be able to compete professionally as women in combat sports. Well, he's just using a slippery slope argument. Sure, I am. And by the way, the International Olympic Committee just now said you don't even have to lower your hormone levels to that of a woman.
That's
so that was kind of the one argument they always use. Like, well, my hormone levels have been the same of a woman for a year. Doesn't change. Now you don't even have to do that.
A year?
They punt it to the sports. They don't punt steroid use for men to sports, but you know what?
Yeah.
Tomato testosterone. Now, here, to be clear, the reason they're the reason they are getting rid of Thomas Jefferson, it's predicated on the idea that he owned slaves, and that's absolutely true. Mm-hmm. So did everybody back then. Now, keep in mind that Thomas Jefferson vocally abhorred the practice of slavery. He said that we would never be able to live up to our ideals as a nation of all men created equal with the concept of slavery. He freed 2 slaves during his life, and he freed more after he died. He was the only one. He wasn't actually able to free all of them because he had debts.
Yeah.
He bet on the Lions.
Yeah. He did.
Nobody should do that.
He wrote a 198-word anti-slavery passage for the Declaration of Independence. He condemned slavery as an evil foisted upon the colonies by the crown. Here's what he wrote. He has waged cruel war against human nature himself, violating its most sacred rights of life and liberty in the persons of a distant people who never offended him, captivating and carrying them into slavery in another hemisphere or to incur miserable death in their transportation thither. That's a nice word.
Thither. It's very infrequently
Add that
used.
to the vocab.
But this is the guy who literally brought the idea and the phrase, all men are created equal, to our country.
Yeah.
This is the guy who did that.
Slavery existed at that point.
Yeah.
You can't do away with it in a day. He did everything that he could at that point. No one's perfect.
Well, not only that, it was completely what was going on during, that's what it was. Yes. There was no other way to live. That's how it was. That's how people saw them.
Yeah.
And he saw them as people when other people, frankly, didn't.
Right.
They saw them as equipment. And it's sad, but that's just what it was.
What's funny to me is when you have African Americans who have no connection to the, what is referred to as the motherland, Muhammad Ali, Richard Pryor, that's what they would refer to Africa as the continent. They'll wear this garb that often will be representative of countries that still have some form of slavery or indentured servitude. Mm-hmm. Or do we say Nancy Pelosi can't wear the scarf?
Yeah. You're wearing the uniform of the people that sold people into slavery as well.
Right.
First slave owner in America was black.
Yep. Look, people get mad. Slavery was never racially motivated. There were racial components used afterwards to justify it, just like people perverted the Bible. But there were white people who were enslaved. There were Mediterranean people who were enslaved. If you look at the North African slave trade. In China, other Asian people were enslaved. Other Chinese people were enslaved. If you look at the history with the Mongols, with the Japanese, this is something, in other words, people have enslaved other people who they've conquered since the beginning of time. The United States freed slaves without conquering. That's one thing, too, that's surprising. That's singularly unique about the United States of America. We fought a war to free slaves. which many people would argue would have been to the benefit of the oppressors. Where else can you think of oppressors fighting a war to end their own reign of oppression?
You're welcome.
Watch Louder with Crowder live, Monday through Thursday, 10 a.m. Eastern.